here, and it's been way too long. I'm not sadly officially back. I just have the ability to film right now, so I figured why not. And I've been thinking for quite a while, what am I gonna film when I finally have the ability to film once again? I figured since recent times have been pretty stressful on all of us, I would try to do something to kind of uplift our community, especially since Yu-Gi-Oh! Has officially announced, or Konami I guess officially announced, that there is no more tournaments or anything really for the rest of the year, which kind of sucks. I figured let's talk about what we like about this game, you know? Because now more than ever, it's easier to get frustrated with people online. It's harder to connect with others. And so I figured why not have us talk about something that's important to us. Let's talk about what deck is important to us, you know? That kind of like really shaped us as like Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. I actually made this into a little challenge on Dual Amino, so if you're part of that, definitely go check that out. But I figured you guys can, everyone who's not in Dual Amino can go participate in the comments down below. Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. Okay, so why are Vendreads important to me? They're important to me because I didn't start playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Until around June of 2017. I was 17 years old and knew absolutely nothing about the game other than some of my friends played it. And that's it. And that's actually when I started dating Nod, and he really wanted us to have like a real duel because he thought it'd be something really fun for us to do, and turns out it actually is something really fun for us to do. So if you have a special person in your life, whether they be friends, family, other people, and you want to get them in the Yu-Gi-Oh! I definitely suggest recommending it to them. But he decided the best way to teach me was to give me an Odd Eyes, Performer Pal, Pendulum, Magician, some odd deck thing and say, there you go, play it. I didn't know anything. I was like, what do I do with this? He's like, you draw 5 cards. I drew 5 cards, looked at it like it was in another language and went, I don't know what to do. I was so bad because I was a clean slate with a deck that was pretty, at least he tells me, was pretty good at the time. And I sucked. I was terrible. But after a month of playing it and absolutely hating it, it made me actually really dislike this game. I really wanted to quit. I hated Yu-Gi-Oh! So much. 1 month later, Konami releases that they're going to start Master Rule 4, and that included a new summoning mechanic, which is links. It included me having to relearn where to put my cards because they moved the pendulum zones down, and now you couldn't just summon your extra deck monsters wherever, you had to choose this spot or this spot. It was very stressful for me as a player who already didn't like Yu-Gi-Oh! And as somebody who was playing a pendulum deck, I wanted to quit. I already hated the game, and then there was stuff that I had to relearn. I had to choose a new deck to learn how to play because pendulums were suddenly really, really bad, and so I couldn't play my deck anymore, or at least so he told me. I was so stressed out because at that time, I had just started to kind of understand the game. So I was able to read my cards and went, oh yeah, this is the one that searches this monster. You know, it was kind of like a memorization thing for me at first. And that was fun. But Nod convinced me not to quit. He encouraged me to keep trying and told me that there was, you know, other decks in the game that I'd find fun. So I actually ended up picking up his Ancient Gear deck, and I took it basically everywhere with me. I took it to college, I took it to high school because I was doing both at the same time. I played with it during lunch. I had 2 of my friends at the time kind of teach me how to play. And I actually have pictures on the Invoke 101 Instagram. If you scroll all the way down, I have pictures of the very first match that I ever won all by myself without help, and it was with Ancient Gear. So you would think Ancient Gear would definitely be the most important deck to me, but it's not. And here's the reason why. Eventually, Nod calls me on the phone and he starts telling me about this deck that has a mechanic I'd never heard about before at the time. It was ritual summoning. I had no idea what ritual summoning was. So I had him explain it to me. Well, as he was telling me about this deck that was based off the Spawn comics, which I had never heard of Spawn before at the time. I know, how dare I not know anything about Spawn. But he told me it was also based off of Resident Evil, and as a kid, oh my gosh, I was the biggest fan. I swear if I watch them now, they're probably not as well, you know, graphic-wise, probably. I don't know. I just remember I used to watch them to go to sleep. I loved those movies. And so I got excited. I was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. He's like, well, it's not out yet. I was like, okay. How long do I have to wait? He was like, oh, you know, a while. I was like, oh, okay. So Vendreads was the first ever deck that I got excited to play. So excited. I was so impatient. And if I remember correctly, we didn't have a sneak peek for Code of the Duelist, which means I couldn't get the cards immediately. I was so upset about it. So, little 17-year-old me was so angry. I was like, but I waited so long. And when I finally did get the cards, because we had some friends that picked up the boxes and stuff, and we were able to trade for them, luckily, I was so happy. I took my little Vendread Shiranui deck, because, you know, they didn't have enough support at the time to be just Vendreads. I took that everywhere. I basically, like, I still carried around Ancient Gears, but I didn't play it as much. I loved Vendreads so much. I thought their artwork was awesome. I thought their card effects were amazing. I really liked that they revived stuff from the grave, and a lot of people were huge fans of this deck. Everyone was so excited for this deck. I don't remember too many people who didn't care, and even those people who originally didn't care saw how much like support the deck was getting from the fan base that they decided, yeah, sounds like a neat deck, I'm gonna pick it up. So like a lot of people know about Vendreads, and a lot of people get devastated when they hear about it. This deck was so fun. I stayed up until like 3 in the morning practicing it. I played against my friends with it literally every single day for months. It was the only deck I played. If you were to scroll back through the Invoked 101 YouTube channel, when I used to do that, it was, there's a playlist called Dueling My Girlfriend or Girlfriend Duels or something like that. If you scroll through it, you'll see this versus Vendreads, this versus Vendreads. I never let the deck go. I always played it, and I never wanted to learn anything else because I thought it was going to be great forever. Because I was new to Yu-Gi-Oh! And I didn't understand how Yu-Gi-Oh! Worked. But by the way, 3 in the morning thing, if you're not getting straight A's like I was, don't do it. You're not allowed to stay up until 3 in the morning. Even if you're an adult, don't do it. It's bad for your health and stuff. But yeah, I'm rambling a lot. Anyways, Vendreads are important to me because they kind of sparked inspiration for me wanting to learn the game. Like I said, I stayed up really late to play it. I dueled my friends with it all the time. It was the first deck I ever really got excited about. I loved the artwork. They were monsters that were terrifying, but not actually in a scary, I can't look at my cards way, because they were still cartooned, you know? I loved everything about that deck for a really long time, to the point where it actually, with all my practice, it gave me enough confidence to play at my very first official Yu-Gi-Oh event. It was just locals, but as somebody who is really shy and to this day has only played in one regional because she gets too nervous, it was a really big step for me to play in locals. And surprisingly, I don't remember doing bad. I wasn't terrible. I wish I could say that I kicked everyone's butt, but I can't. Because I don't know of a single person who has never played at a locals before and just started learning Yu-Gi-Oh! Who went to locals and topped. You know, I don't think that's ever been heard of before, at least not to me. Everyone kind of sucks when they first start playing competitively, and that's okay. I remember there was a guy who took Paleo Frogs there every single week, and there were a few people that were playing World Chalice and Trickstars at the time, and there was definitely somebody playing Dinosaurs. And I don't remember my matchups, but I remember that it was a 4 to 5 match tournament thing. For some reason I can't talk all of a sudden. But I remember I won 1 to 2 games, like full matches. And I was so proud. I was so proud. Like, you would think that, oh, you know, I sucked, I didn't win, because it was big locals. So if you went 2-2, you were near the bottom, you know? Just because there were so many people who were going 3-1. So even though I wasn't, you know, one of the best players there, I was just so proud that I actually was able to beat somebody. Because you gotta remember, as a person who's scared to play at a tournament because she doesn't know the people there, went into locals and she didn't really know anyone and she didn't know anything about what they were playing, and she couldn't ask for help. And I won a game by myself. So I was so proud, and it actually, the deck gave me enough confidence. I wanted to be the best Vendread player, and sadly, I didn't have a complete deck. I didn't have a complete extra deck, and I probably didn't have the best tech I had Solemn Strikes in the deck, which could have probably been something else, but Imperms weren't out at the time. And I know that, you know, there was probably something I could have made, you know, different with the deck, and I think I have like a few pictures that I might be able to possibly show you. But I was so confident with this deck, I wanted to become the best Vendread player ever, which is why I stayed up so late. It's why I took it everywhere, played it all the time. Every single day I would look at my deck and think, oh, what can I do to make it better? You know, these cards have to stay at 3, but these cards are at 2. Should I bump it down? Should I bump it up? You know, it really was the deck that got me into Yu-Gi-Oh! And without it, I would not be sitting in front of the camera today. And I wouldn't be able to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. And I would have never gone to my first regional, you know. And I'm not the best player in the world, but I've made a lot of friends from this game. And even though I hated this game, there's sometimes when I still do. There's sometimes when I just don't want to play anymore. I want to delete my channel, I want to just put it off to the side, never touch it again. And I'm really glad that I never have, because if I didn't have Vendreads, I wouldn't have met all the wonderful people that I have. I wouldn't have gotten to YouTubing. I wouldn't have met one of my favorite YouTubers ever, which is Yuki Nono. I wouldn't have met anyone, really, and just so much of my life would be missing. You know, I wouldn't have had the fun of going to another state to play in an event. And I really do think that this was the deck that's most important to me, not because of, you know, how much I liked it, but because of how much it inspired me to become a better player, and it inspired me to keep up with the game. Because without it, I had my Dolces at the time, but I didn't really play them. Without it, I wouldn't have figured out that my Dolces were my favorite deck. I wouldn't have figured out what kind of summoning mechanics I'm interested in, and I wouldn't have figured out how to build a deck either. Guys, stop hitting me up on Instagram to ask me how to build your budget whatever deck. I don't know how to build every deck in the world. I only really know how to build my decks, for me personally, for my play style. But yeah, I'm rambling a lot because it's been a while since I've done a video and I'm a little nervous. But this deck was really important to me, and I would love to hear what decks are important to you guys down in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. I would love to hear if they got you into the game, or if it was a deck that, you know, you've been playing for a really long time and then a certain engine came out that made the deck your favorite deck of all time at some point, you know. I would just love to hear like your stories, you know, what inspired you to still play the game even after the fact that this game doesn't really have a way to play it other than online simulators that aren't, you know, that are not part of Konami, you know. I would like to hear why you have a passion for Yu-Gi-Oh! I would love to hear your positivity in the comments down below. It would be fantastic, especially after all of the negativity that sadly the world has been surrounded by. For those of you who have stayed and listened to my video and my ramblings, thank you so very much. And thank you to all the people who have stayed, you know, on my channel. It really means a lot to me, and I'm really sorry I've been gone for so long. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll be back as soon as I can be. Bye!